This video is for you if you want to see if your favorite EX actually got a buff. Let's get into it. Everything that we will be discussing throughout this video are the EX characters at base. So now base EX characters are even stronger than they were before. Starting off with the Goddess of War herself, her talent has been upgraded across all of the tiers. She used to make it so her basic attacks dealt additional physical AoE damage equal to 16% of her max HP. Now instead of it being a 16%, it's a 29%. Like, these are great jumps. I thought it was going to be like super small jumps, but we're going from 16 to 26. That's a whole 13 extra points. It's almost double what it used to be. Her level 2 made it so whenever she did Deathless Domination, she resets her cooldown of her God Fist, which is a skill that we'll talk about later, after being triggered, and reduces the energy cost of this unit's next overdrive by 1. So she's getting some cooldown reduction now, and then she had another effect where each time a basic attack dealt damage, or when taking basic attack damage, she would gain 5% energy, and then when at full energy, God Fist and Focus Fist would become supercharged. Now her effect is going to be to deal additional damage that increases according to her energy, up to a total of 120 additional damage. We'll still have to do some testing to see how that really adds up, and it's not really clear on if this will replace what the previous effect was, meaning that God Fist and Focus Fist will no longer be supercharged, and if that's just getting replaced with that 120 additional damage whenever you're at full energy, which you used to need anyways in order to get this 2 to be supercharged. So that's going to be interesting. That's only the level 1 guys, and we already got some massive buffs. When Deathless Domination is activated, it's going to reset the cooldown of God Fist, and the energy cost of Self's next overdrive is reduced by 3 instead of only 1. So ideally, with this change, you'll be able to pop out 2 ults pretty much immediately instead of having to wait 18 seconds. So you will be able to pop a God Fist, inflict the stun, then immediately get it back, and then because it's a 1 cost, you will immediately use God Fist again. The next change comes to tier 4, which used to be gain 50% energy at the start of combat, and when at full energy, gain plus 750 critical hit and 750 break. Now they're going to give you, instead of a 50% energy bonus, it's going to be a 75% energy bonus, and then the crit and break statuses, that used to be the only thing you got, now it's going to be 1.5k for each of those instead of 750. That's awesome. Only talking about the talents. Now actually talking about her overdrive, it used to be an AoE 600% of attack to enemy units in a medium rectangular area while knocking them back, and when she was at full energy, she dealt additional physical damage equal to 44% of her max HP. The skill could generate punishment if the enemy's ult was above a 4 cost, and it would generate a 4-second stun. Since now you can almost spam those back to back, that's almost an 8-second stun that you can get now if the enemy is inflicted by punishment. Now they added an additional 60% to her AoE damage, and they doubled the bonus damage she was getting that scaled based on her HP to 88, and now you're not even dependent on if you have full energy or not to get that additional effect, so you're just getting it always. And then on top of that, depending on how much energy you have, you can get an additional 80% damage on top of that whole enchilada. I mean, we are talking about a 2 to 3x multiplier on power per skill. Like, EX units actually just got like 2 to 3 times stronger at base. Her ultimate skill used to be Focus Fist. Now it's going to change into her ultimate skill. Focus Fist is a cone-shaped attack that deals 190% of her attack, and then the more energy you have, you did an additional 100% damage, and if you were at full energy, you would get an additional shield equal to 30% of her max HP that lasted for 6 seconds. Now the damage you do in that cone-shaped area is going to be 220, and the shield that she will get is 45% instead of 30%. Her secret skill, Seismic Soul, increased bonus damage by 60% when attacking enemies affected by crowd control up to 40%. Now why is that super good? Remember that she stuns her enemies with her ultimate. So now you'll be able to do 2 ultimates back to back into secret skill to get that additional 40% damage. Needless to say, Ares enjoyers are eating good. They're just getting a free 3x buff on their characters. Imagine that. The power of love has actually prevailed for the first time in Dragon Traveler. Okay, moving on to Apollo. Apollo has been getting so much glaze by the people who have her. Now, if they actually go ahead and if they actually reduce the threshold of attack needed in order to get her maximum damage, that's going to be insane. Or if they also just increase the percentage of damage that you're able to do with her skills, she's gonna be cracked out. Let's see what they did for her. So they essentially just flat out double the amount of max HP damage per instance of damage that you're doing, which is insane. They literally just doubled her damage in that regard. And they also doubled the actual cap. That's absolutely insane. And that's at level 1, it looks like. Like, that's just the baseline of her kit. And then the only other thing that got a buff is her tier 4, which gives you an additional 4% crit damage. You think that was all? No, that's an additional 40% crit damage on top of what she was already giving you. Again, they 2x her damage output, and then they just give you 40% more damage on top of any crit that you do. Apollo seems absolutely cracked. Looks like for her overdrive, she's just getting a little bit more damage reduction, up to 40 from the 30% it used to be. Then for her ultimate, they're giving you an additional 9% attack damage back from when it was 34. Insane. And then for her special skill, you're essentially now doing double the splash damage whenever you're in the gray status. I don't know about you guys, but I think Apollo is currently looking like the character that got the most buffs if we're just talking raw damage potential versus Ares. Ares was able to get certainly some big damage numbers, but it was mainly just being able to make her control more so that she can proc some additional debuffs and then she can keep putting a lot of punishment on the enemies. But I think Apollo's floor is much bigger just due to the fact that she's doing percentage-based damage on enemies' HP. Alright, next up is Best Wife. Looks like her base talent and her tier 2 got buffed. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. I see lifelink right there. That's a very broken ability. Let's see what they do for her. So starting for the battle resolve, it looks like now whenever you go into gray status, instead of it giving you a 30% buff, it's now going to give you a 40% buff. Just a free 10% additional buff. Even if you have a base Athena, that's going to be very, very good. For her tier 2, while she's in the gray status, you will get an additional 40%. So you can get an additional 80% versus the previous additional 60% on your battle resolve. I mean, just a couple of additional stats, but I can't see how that's bad for Athena. Athena was also, granted, pretty broken already, so it makes sense that somebody like Ares actually got more love than Athena. Apollo is just absolutely insane. Like, I don't know what to say. They're just, again, the light faction always getting spoiled while we're starving here in the blue faction, bro. And then, I mean, let's see what lifelink is. When an allied luminary HP falls below 30%, okay, that stays the same, forms a lifelink with them, increasing their damage reduction by 40%, up from 20%. They just doubled the chains? What the literally every character got 2x buffs. Holy. Okay, Hades, you gotta show. Yeah, Hades got all of their skills buffed, bro. All right, let's see. Summoner teams, rejoice. Hades got some buffs. Let's see. So for her basic talent, so none of her star upgrades actually got affected by this. Her base talent makes it so that for every 4 stacks of awakening gained by other luminaries, her damage bonus is increased by 15%? That's crazy. For every 4 stacks, but of every other unit. Meaning that could max out, you can get 2 of those stacks. I mean, you can get that buff 2 times per unit, right? Of each of other units. So you can do 5 times 2 and then times that 15 attack. She can get another 150. Am I making the math correct on that? That's stupid good. I mean, it used to be stupid good anyways. It used to be another 100% damage, right? But now it's another 15% damage. 150, sorry. That's crazy. She just gets a casual 20% attack buff. Okay, nothing super crazy there. It looks like it was already a pretty good skill. She's just getting a little bit extra damage on that. That's pretty good. Oh, yes, I remember. Hades actually also did percentage-based damage based on how much damage you've already done, right? How much HP they've lost. What are they going to do here? When attacking, damage increase based on the target's lost HP percentage. For every 1% of HP lost, damage bonus is increased by 0.55, up from 0.4. So not as crazy as Apollo though. What the hell? So they're willing to give Apollo, an already very strong unit, 2x the percentage that she deals, but they won't do that for Hades? That's kind of crazy. And before we go into the final lady Poseidon, we still have Elysium, Hades' special skill. Okay, she gets a 50% bonus anytime she gets 1 stack of Death Rattle. This was already a very good skill. She just got another 0.5 additional damage to that. Can't complain, right? Summon team, like, she's gonna go absolutely insane. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for her and that other summoning unit to come out, so we can have both of those EXs. It's gonna go crazy. And then lastly, for all the Poseidon lovers, if you still have doubts if Poseidon is good, you saw how many buffs every other EX got. Poseidon only got 1 buff. And it states the following. So Poseidon is really going to benefit from having additional stars because she's not getting anything on her base kit that is inherently stronger. They give her like a 50 to 60% buff whenever you would do additional damage to enemies inflicted by elemental reaction. That's crazy. Then on her tier 3, and then just for existing, she used to have a 10% defense shred on magic attacks. Now she has a 20% shred just for existing if you have her at tier 3. Okay, and then for her tier 4, she gets an extra 15% attack damage if the enemy already was afflicted by an elemental react. And let's remember, anytime a debuff is cast on an enemy, she's immediately following that up with some additional damage. That's crazy good. Now granted, tier 4 is once you have her at 1 red star, I believe, so you're gonna need a lot of investment for that, but Poseidon just has so much aura. Just her being on the field is like making people take extra damage. Poseidon is crazy strong. If you need any more confirmation for that, everybody else got like billions of buffs. Poseidon just gets, you know, a couple of tier buffs for her star levels. EX units were completely broken. Now they're even more broken with very little investment. Yeah, guys, just insane. This is dropping on the 4th, so well, essentially tomorrow. Anyway, see ya.